A very good day to you all. I hope you are doing well at home. Please continue to take care of yourself. So today we are proceeding with our video section. We are moving on to video class for week 8. In the last video, which was on week 7, we talked about pronouns. Our topic then was pronouns, whereby we look at 8 types of pronouns: reciprocal, indefinite, personal, and all of that. We talked about their meaning, their functions, and we also give examples of their examples in sentences. So please take your time, run through the notes again, and also the video, watch it again, and try as much as possible to come up with your own examples and make your sentences from all of these types of pronouns. Also, attempt the exercise that is attached to the lesson note on the school's website. Today we are proceeding to week 8. Week 8 video, we are still on grammar, and we are going to be looking at sentences. We are going to be looking at structural types of sentences. In English language, there are functional types of sentences, and there are structural types of sentences. So today we are going to be looking at the structural types of sentences. Then our subtopic will be moving slightly into main and independent clause. We'll just look at it briefly. Main and dependent clause. Main and dependent clause. Let's look at our lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to mention and explain the 3 main structural types of sentences. We have 3 main types of structural sentences. So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to mention them and to explain them. Number 2, you should be able to give examples of these sentences. You should be able to give examples of these types of sentences. And number 3, you should be able to explain main and dependent clauses. Main and dependent clauses. Number 4, you should be able to give examples of main and dependent clauses. Main and dependent clauses. Let's move into the topic in detail. The structural types of sentences in English language are 3. There are 3 in number: the simple sentence, the compound sentence, and the complex sentence. Simple, compound, and complex sentences. Let's start with the first one. That's the simple sentence. A simple sentence consists of one single independent clause made up of a subject and predicate. It consists of one single independent clause made up of the subject and the predicate. The predicate is also the verb. Now, all other types of sentences are built on this simple sentence. So, in essence, simple sentence is the bedrock, is the basic of every other types of sentence. So, it is to this simple sentence that we add other sentences to form the other types of sentences. So the simple sentence is the basis of every other types of sentence. For example, the children ate delicious meal. The children ate delicious meal. It is a simple sentence that has complete meaning. The children is the subject, ate is the predicate, and delicious meal other components, that's the object. The boy comes here. The boy comes here. The boy comes here. The boy is the subject. Comes is the predicate. Here is also belongs to the other complement. So the two main positions that are important in our simple sentence is the subject and the predicate. He teaches me. He is the subject. Teaches is the predicate. The me is also the object, which can be optional at times. So we move on to the number 2 type of sentence. Number 2 type of structural sentence. We have the compound sentence. The compound sentence is a sentence with two or more sentences connected by joining words like and, but. A compound sentence can be described as two or more simple sentences coming together. You know, I told you earlier that the simple sentence is the bedrock, is the basis upon which other types of sentences are built. So in the case of compound sentence, we are joining two simple sentences together with the use of joining words to form our compound sentence. For example, Nigeria is rich in mineral resources, but majority of our people live in abject poverty. Now we have two sentences here which we bring together with the use of a joining word but to form a compound sentence. We have the first part of the sentence, the simple sentence. We also have the second part of the sentence. We bring the two of them together with the use of a joining word but, and we have a compound sentence. Number two example, I paid the driver and entered the lorry. I paid the driver and entered the lorry. Paid the driver, a simple sentence. I entered the lorry, another simple sentence. We bring it together with our joining word and we have a compound sentence and so forth. There are more examples in your notes. When you delve into the notes, you see these examples. Number three, we have the complex sentence. Complex sentence, that's the third structural type of sentence that we have in English language. Now the complex sentence has more than one idea. It has more than one idea. It contains one independent clause as the main clause, which we can also call a simple sentence, and one or more subordinate clauses. Because we say it expresses more than one idea. So we can have one or more subordinate clauses joined to the main clause to have our complex sentence. Complex sentences can be achieved through a process known as subordination. Now, subordination is when we use words like who, when, where, unless, if, so, that, because, etc. to introduce subordinate clauses. Now when we use these words to introduce our subordinate clause and we add this to the main clause, we have our complex sentence. I hope we are together. All right, let's look at examples. I realized that he had not understood the error. I realized that he had not understood the error which I pointed out to him. Now let's look at this word which. It is a subordinator. And we use it to introduce the subordinate clause that we want to add to the main clause. So we have, I realized that he had not understood the error, which I pointed out to him, and so on. Let's look at second example. You know, we said it usually has more than one idea. This second example illustrates that. The host provided enough drinks. That's one idea. The cook prepared delicious dishes, another idea. And the guests turned out in great number, which is also another idea. So all of this mixed together gives us our complex sentences. So you see more examples in your notes. Now that is that about the three types of sentences, the three structural types of sentences. We have the simple sentence, which is the basis of them all. The compound sentence, which is when we join two simple sentences together with the use of joining words, compound, to give us our compound sentence. And then the complex sentence, when we have the main clause and one or more subordinate clauses. Subordinate clauses introduced by subordinate words like who, which, and all of that. That is our three structural types of sentences. Now we move on to the subtopic that's looking briefly at independent clause and dependent clause. Now, what is an independent clause? An independent clause, which is also known as main clause, is a group of words that include a subject and a verb. It includes a subject and a verb. It is a complete sentence. When something is independent, it means it can stand alone. The independent clause can stand alone. It can stand on its own. It can stand on its own. It can stand on its own. It expresses a complete thought. It expresses a complete thought. It expresses a complete thought, and do not forget that a sentence must have a main clause. A sentence must always have a main clause. The sentence must always have a main clause. Now, we have some words that we use to introduce our independent clause. We call these words independent marker words. Now, it is not in all cases that we use these words to introduce independent clause, but sometimes we use these words to also introduce these words include also, consequently, furthermore, however, moreover, nevertheless, therefore, and so on. Now we use these words to begin independent clauses. It is not in all situations, like I have said earlier, that we use them to introduce independent clauses, but we can also use them. When you see these words at the beginning of independent clause, or rather when you see them at the beginning of a group of words, you know that we are talking about independent. Examples of independent clauses. Number one, you are my best friend. You are my best friend. A simple sentence is complete meaning, and that is that you are my best friend. Another example, David kicked the soda machine. David kicked the soda machine. This is also another example of independent clause. So in your notes, there are other examples whereby some independent clauses were introduced with marker words, and some other examples were also given on independent clauses. So please take your time to run through the notes. And the second type is the dependent clause. We said we'll be looking at independent and dependent clause. Now, what does dependent mean? Dependent means something that cannot stand alone. It needs something else before it can function properly. Dependent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, but do not express a complete thought. It does not express a complete thought. It does not have a complete meaning. When you hear dependent clauses, sentences that are dependent clauses, you will still be expecting more information. You will want the writer or the speaker to say something more, before you can get a good knowledge of what he or she is talking about. So it cannot stand alone. It cannot. Just like we have in independent clause, there are also marker words for dependent clause. Marker words are words that we use to introduce dependent clauses. For example, after, although, as, because, when, since, though, unless, until, whenever, while, etc. We use these words to also introduce dependent clauses. When you see a group of words that are introduced by this set of marker words, you know that you are going to be having a dependent clause. For example, let's look at the sentences. In these sentences, we underline the dependent clause. All right, so let's look at examples of our dependent clauses. The patrol had spotted the man who was hiding in the attic. The patrol had spotted the man who was hiding in the attic. Now let's look at the underlined words. Who was hiding in the attic? You know, I said the dependent clauses are usually introduced with marker words. Now in this case now, it is introduced by the marker word who. So we have who was hiding in the attic is the dependent clause in this sentence. Now let's look at it. If I just come to you and just, and say who was hiding in the attic, you like that a question, like what do I want to say? Do I want to add more to it? You'll be expectant. But if I add it to another group of words, like the patrol had spotted the man who was hiding in the attic, then you have a complete sentence. You have a complete, you have a complete sentence, a meaningful sentence, a sentence that expresses a complete thought. So the same thing too applies to all our other examples. Unless Peter helps, that is another example of dependent clause. But no one could answer. Another example of dependent clause. When we arrived in class, you want to know what happened. Yes, say more. So that is another example of. So we have successfully come to the end of today's class. We've looked at our structural types of sentences, the three main structural types of sentences: the simple, the compound, and the complex sentence. We've also looked at our main and independent clause with relevant examples. Please take your time to run through your notes, attempt the exercises that you have there, and also listen to the video over and over again and ensure that you get the complete message in today's topic. Take care of yourself and my regards to everyone at home. Bye.